Hello, friends. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. I'm your host, Rodge, joined by Jerome, JP. How's it going, man?
Good. Glad to be back again after several years.
Yeah, I think the last one was Pagan Peoples, right?
Yeah, on your channel we did Pagan Peoples, and then you came on my my channel for the Old Friend New Enemies for the Age of Crusades.
That's right.
It's a little bit of a tag team.
So I think you're responsible for Age of Invasions coming out, right? By posting all those videos with version
that was one of the
1 boards
jokes we had. Yeah.
So everybody,
you're welcome. You're welcome, everyone.
Everybody, thanks you for your efforts. I'll have to come back on and do round 2. And we could probably revisit Pagan Peoples at some point, because I've played them since then, and I think I play them a little differently than what you are running. At the time, I didn't have like any clue about these guys or what they were about. So, you've been busy. What have you been up to? Give us an update on the.
I'm not sure. Quite a few things have happened since that time, but. Been loving the new Age of Invasions, so playing a lot of that. Luckily, the tournament scene has started up again here in kind of northwest Europe, and it's kind of starting on some new adventures with starting up a podcast as well. So I will just shout out that check out the Activation Phase podcast. It should be posted on Facebook every once in a while, and it's also on Spotify, Apple Podcast, etc., etc.
Yeah. So you had the Hercus Monty channel previously on YouTube, and posted a lot of good stuff there. It's kind of been rebranded to Activation Phase, and I know Peeker, he's been posting some videos on there, kind of his tabletop simulator stuff. I mentioned that on some prior Saga Thursdays. Are really, really well done, better than anything I ever did with Tabletop Simulator. And you guys are doing the Activation Phase podcast. As of this recording, so these are recorded in advance, so this probably won't be out for a month or two, but you've gone through all the invasion stuff, and it seems like you're working through the Hannibal stuff. Is that the plan?
We just started the Age of Hannibal, so Age of Hannibal's been lying or sitting on my shelf for close to 2 years now. I didn't feel particularly motivated for it, so Tim convinced me that we should look at it, and starting to get a lot more motivated, starting to paint some new models. So it's a nice little book so far, but we've just started it, so there's still a little bit of a learning curve there.
Cool. Yeah, I think it kind of went under the radar where I'm at as well, but with Age of Alexander, as we're recording this, it hasn't come out or anything, but we know that it's the next one in line and will be coming out. We'll have a whole bunch of juicy new factions. I won't have any excuse at that point to paint some stuff up. But we're here, JP, to talk about the Goths. Your baby.
It's a long time coming. They were kind of a very strange faction in version 1. So this new board has made me feel not so bad about painting up the Ostrogoths and like 40 odd horses for them. So I've finally been able to dust them off and use them with this new update.
Yeah, so they were interesting fatigue-based faction in version 1, and in version 2 of Saga, the fatigue mechanics underwent an overhaul, and it left you kind of scratching your head as far as how does this board supposed to work now, and was that factored into the board originally? They kind of said it was, but I don't know, just has some weird stuff about it. But we got the version 2 is out now, and I have played one game at least with this board, and I think it's a lot of fun. Is this a favorite of yours? I know you volunteered. Why'd you volunteer these guys?
It's a really. I like playing very flexible factions, and I think you'll be hard pressed to find a faction that can switch to being very aggressive, to being incredibly defensive, even without changing any equipment options. So I think it's a very good all-round faction. Maybe not the best one for people just starting off, because some of the fatigue mechanics are a little bit tricky, and you're always really kind of looking for kind of pushing the fatigue just below the limit before you're getting exhausted. So you do have to watch out a little bit, but it is a very fun little faction.
Yeah, I agree. I think as like an all-comers, if you're going to events and stuff, I think the Goths are going to be a very competitive force. At Adepticon, I was going to be the ringer for Age of Melee. I was ready to step in. I was going to play Goths. So I would have been ready for anything. Unfortunately, it did not happen. But yeah, I agree with what you've said so far. So let's take a look at the equipment options as we do. We'll start with the Visigoths. This is one of those boards with two different options here. We got the Vizzies and the Ostros. So the Visigoth, he can be mounted on a horse, and he can have cataphract armor. Very cool. The Hearthguards can be mounted on horses, and if the Warlord is, so a little distinction there, and they can have cataphract armor as well if they want. Warriors are your foot sloggers, and the levies are bows or slings. Which Goths do you run? Do you just kind of flip flop, or do you have a preference?
I do all forms of Goths.
All Goths,
so,
yeah, maybe.
I think the Visigoths are definitely more the Swiss Army knife of the Goths, because you can switch being on foot and being incredibly defensive, or if you're playing against shooting factions. And if you're not playing against shooting factions, you can mount up and become incredibly aggressive. So they can do a little bit of everything. And originally I was playing the Ostrogoths, so that's the more mounted faction. But I've kind of moved more towards favoring the Visigoths and all-comers type situation.
Yeah, so the Ostrogoths, you must mount your Hearthguards on horses. You must put your Warlord on a horse. You can, cataphract is optional. So you're locked in there. What you gain then is the Warriors can be mounted on horses as well, is the big thing. But you can't have more foot warriors than warriors on horseback. So you're kind of locking yourself in. If you're taking warriors, you have to take some of them on horses. So yeah, I mean, yeah, Visigoths seem to offer you the options there. Just looking at the board, I don't know that warrior horsemen are the key to any particular strategy.
No, it's just it saves you using dice to move, and just lets you put more dice on the really good stuff on the board. So that's the main one. But I think if you're looking for flexibility, your Visigoths are definitely the way to go. Maybe one thing to mention as well is that they can be played as the Lombards in Age of Vikings.
Yes.
And that's more towards the Ostrogoth side. So there you have to mount your Warlord and your Hearthguard and your Warriors. No choices there. And then what's actually very nice is your levies can either have bows or they can have the melee option as well. So there you can kind of play around with taking a few melee levies.
It's not javelin. They're like the melee dudes.
Yeah. So
that's
nothing
pretty
more
good.
frustrating than fighting levies with melee options, and then making them almost invincible when they close ranks is even more frustrating. So
sure,
it's a good time.
All right, well, I'll have to keep that in mind as we go through these abilities there. If keep the Lombards in mind. So, do you like the cataphract armor? You take it, or?
No, I don't take it. I do have the option for it, but if I do mount my Warlord and my Hearthguard, I tend to do it because I'm not facing any shooting and I want to get some speed. So the cataphract option kind of defeats that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe it's more like a Ostrogoth kind of thing where.
Yeah, it could be. I don't think it's worth it, but on the other hand, I think the Goths are so flexible that you can get away with it without a problem. And even having the M movement, if you have to get an extra move in there to reach your target, and you come with an extra fatigue, that's not even particularly a bad way of running it.
Yeah.
As we'll see when we're discussing this board, which maybe it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but yeah, this board really actually enjoys getting fatigue. So yeah, it's a little bit of a strange way. You can definitely integrate that into your play style. I don't think there's any problem there.
Yeah, there's a few different tricks around that, and being on foot, maybe I do want to activate two times, to get there. Do you take any levies? What do you usually for composition?
Yeah, so
are you looking at?
So for the Visigoths, had some success taking 2 points of Hearthguard, and then 4 points of Warriors, and just not bothering with the shooting because it's not supported by the board, and you're not really gaining that much. So you'd prefer just to have bodies and generate some extra dice,
some meat.
And then. Yeah, Warriors can become very, very solid with this board, so they tend to stick around. If I'm taking the Ostrogoths, I do actually want to take maybe 1 point of levy just to be able to screen my my cavalry a little bit, or to kind of make sure that opposing people's cavalry don't get too close to mine and charge them, because obviously now I can't be closing ranks if I'm mounted. So there, I would probably look at taking 2 points of Hearthguard, 3 points of mounted warriors or foot warriors, depending. I guess you have to split them half, and then 1 point of levy. And then finally on the Lombards, I think that's probably where the levy become the most useful to take them. Since you can take the melee levy there, and they can be quite useful in capturing objectives and kind of controlling territory and stuff like that, because you can split them into two. If you take 1.5 points of levy, you can have one shooting unit and one melee unit that can kind of grab objectives, depending on the scenario. And that way you can keep your mounted warriors and your mounted Hearthguards running around the board, killing things. Rather than
kicking butt,
worrying about dragging an objective around.
Poor guys, go pick that up for me. I'm gonna go.
Yep, absolutely. So there's a lot of flexibility, and I think that's really the key of this board. You can really tailor it to your play style. It's got some very good abilities. I don't think there's a single dud ability on this board, so you can really play to your heart's content and use this board fully. So it's a really good one. I strongly encourage people to pick it up, play around with it, and you'll definitely enjoy it.
Okay, well, let's get into the board stuff here. So up top, looking at the usual stuff there, nothing special across the basic activations. And as we get to the abilities below, so there's a lot of fatigue stuff there where you're giving fatigue to yourself, or there's benefits for fatigue. So it's kind of one of those trade-off boards in some respects. But instead of reducing your armor or blocking hits, you're giving yourself fatigue, which is interesting because you don't have to pay the price on the trade-off immediately. Getting bit in the butt with the fatigue comes later. So there's an interesting delay there in the trade-off mechanic versus some of those other boards like the Mutts or the Saxons, where it's an immediate trade-off. You're just kind of locking up those fatigues, and I'll worry about it later. But all right, First Blood, I'll do this one. Melee, common or uncommon. If your unit has no fatigues, it gains 3 attack dice. So I don't know, one die for 3 attacks, not bad, but no fatigues. No, that's not how a Goth goes into a fight, is it? He's got to be a little.
It doesn't normally happen. No, it's fine. It's. I don't think I've ever used the combat bonus, so this is basically just a better combat bonus.
Yeah.
And if you are in the position where you can charge in one go, then First Blood is perfectly fine. But I think there's a few other ones that kind of get priority.
Yes, this one doesn't necessarily combo as well. There's begging to combine these abilities, as we'll see. So this one, I mean, it could be the first one you play, and then you play another one to get fatigue and make something better. But as I recall, I would just generally use this on the first turn or two, before the fight's really begun. Get some extra attacks. And yeah, not too much to say about it. Let's move on to something fun here. Blood Price. This one, so, it's kind of a workhorse, I would say. Is that?
But yes, I think it's. I think I play this every single turn. So like you said, Blood Price. It's a common or a rare. So you gain 2 dice or 3 dice if you use a rare for each fatigue on your unit. They can be attack dice, defense dice, or a mix of the two. So this is kind of what I was talking about with the flexibility. If you want to kill a unit, you just take all attack dice. If you want to survive, and if someone charges you, then you just take all defense dice, and you're normally pretty survivable. This playstyle, your units, especially if you after melee, you'll probably be on 2 or 3 fatigues anyway, so you can significantly increase the number of attacks that you're putting out, or the number of defense dice that you'll be getting. But this is an amazing one. I'm not sure the rare goes there immediately. There's definitely some better options for that.
Yeah.
But if you've got a few extra rares, there's always that one turn where it happens. It's definitely not a bad place to put it.
So you're right. We'll get to a couple of those other rare ones, but there's no ability that requires a rare. And then so the other two kind of amp up those abilities. I think Resolve is probably the one we're thinking of, where the rare is going to go first. But frequently you will have that extra rare, and frequently you will have 3 fatigues through a combination of various things. So I mean, that's like 9 attack and or defense dice for.
Yeah, and it can also be a mix as well. So it's not
cap out,
either or. So you can it's absolutely you can kind of guess the odds a little bit, and kind of play it by ear. But I think actually probably a very useful one that we should discuss before we move on to the rest of the board, and I think this really ties the board together, is Resolve.
Sure, yeah.
So this is the talking about rares. This is kind of where you put your first rare normally. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in line here.
Through the PowerPoint slides here. Oh my God, this is so unprofessional. Apologies to those. The guest is always right, though. No? Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, we'll go to resolves here. So I don't know if you started the description, but go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So this is an activation ability. This is using a uncommon or a rare. So activate a unit for a charge, up to 2 units if you use a rare. Until the end of your activation, including the melee that follows, your opponent cannot use the activated unit's fatigues. So I think this is a key ability, and you'll be playing it every single turn where you can, because as you'll see, a lot of the abilities kind of stack fatigues onto your unit. You get some bonuses, but you do get fatigue, and it would be a little bit of a shame if you played those abilities and your opponent could either just ensure that they were very difficult to hit by using your fatigue directly, or making sure that you're easier to hit by lowering your armor using the fatigue you just gained. So this kind of ensures that you have a 1 or 2 units which have a really good melee session, essentially, because you get fatigues, they can't use it. However, you can use your opponent's fatigue. So they become very, very brutal during the charge. However, it does leave you in your opponent's turn potentially with a lot of fatigue on your units. So that is the downside.
Yeah, so this is on your turn, you're being aggressive, you're stacking up those fatigues, but like I said, you're delaying. This is kind of what I meant by that. You're delaying the pain of the consequences of having those fatigues with this resolve ability, pushing it back till next turn. And this one kind of fixed. I think the old board maybe did have an ability like this, but of course you kind of, the sweet spot is getting into combat with 2 fatigues, as weird as it sounds. So if your opponent could just cancel, if you got 2 fatigues, they can just cancel your charge activation, so in this certain situations, this is just going to ensure that you actually get there as well. And this is tasty little ability here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it without playing this, I'm not sure I would charge a unit where I actually wanted to do a lot of damage without playing this. It's that fundamental to the board. But it does mean you are limited to just having 2 good melees per turn. So that is the downside a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, most boards, not every board can even get 2 good melees, where the Goths definitely can. And then the Goths are, as a faction we'll see, I mean, you could load everything up into one crazy Scott style, kill everything and come out unscathed type assault too. So, I mean, the rare's good here, but it's not. You kind of got to decide if you're going to go for 1 or 2 killer charges here. So
yeah. Also, if you do decide to go the 2 killer charges, it normally means you won't have anything to protect yourself in your opponent's turn. So you do need to be a little bit careful, and the dice need to go your way. If you fluff your attack, then and you blow through 6 dice combos, then you're kind of screwed.
That's how I always did it.
That's just the gamble you have to do in the end, and it does make it very fun.
Yeah, I never learned the trick of saving any dice with these guys, because just everything gets better the more you pile in there. So you'll have to learn us good on that. But let's go back to, what is it? Blood price immunity here. Very, very good ability. Somebody just really good abilities that make you smile when you're burning those Saga dice. Shooting reaction or melee. You can use any die you want. Inflict a fatigue on your unit to cancel up to 2 casualties suffered by your unit during this melee or shooting attack. 3 if you use a rare. And you can immediately trigger another Saga ability. So, very cool. So that last part, you give yourself a fatigue and you can pop an ability before the opponent spends it off immediately, is kind of the reason that one's in there. And there's another ability like that we'll talk about later. But just 2 auto cancels, 3 auto cancels. That's good. You don't get a lot of auto stuff like that in Saga. So usually it's auto hits, but blocking just casualties outright is pretty darn huge.
Yes, this is after you roll your defense dice as well. So it's amazing.
Yeah, you get a full.
It's something you automatically play every single time. The one downside is you do need to be able to inflict a fatigue on your unit. So, for example, if you're playing Resolve and you end up and you arrive with 3 fatigues into the melee, that means you can't trigger this because your opponent can't use your fatigue anyway. So you do need to make sure that you can actually trigger this. And also, if you're saving your immunity to play in your opponent's turn, you need to make sure that your unit does actually still have a maximum of 2 to be able to trigger this.
Okay.
So it is it's an automatic play, I think, pretty much in any situation. It does make your Hearthguard very viable because it essentially kind of ensures either in shooting that they're not going to get anything through, because if you're shooting against armor of 5 and you're canceling 2 or 3 after, you have to roll for your armor after you get your 4+ defense roll, like you're normally not getting that many through anyway, and this kind of guarantees that nobody's plinking off your Hearthguard, either mounted or on foot, so it makes them very viable as well.
Yeah, you're right there. So on the surface, any unit can use it, but with the Hearthguard, their armor is higher than everybody else, and you can, just fewer hits are going to go through because of that, so you have a better chance of just blocking everything versus, like on a levy unit, going from 5 casualties from 7, maybe not a big deal, but going from 2 down to 0, on your Hearthguard, that's great. And that's a good point that we need to raise, is you have to be able to meet the criteria of inflicting a fatigue on your unit. So frequently, if you're doing it right, I would assume the Goths are going to be exhausted after almost every combat that they do, but there are some tricks to shuffle that around, I think, or
absolutely.
just
maybe
scratch it.
Maybe one last point on immunity. If your unit does end up being exhausted in your opponent's turn, and you have a dice on this, and then they charge you again, they're very unlikely to actually use your fatigue, because it instantly becomes really, really great.
Counterintuitive there. I like that little.
It's I wouldn't suggest doing that on purpose, but it does give people a little bit of a pause, and if they do it anyway, then it's actually not too bad.
No, I think that's a good point. Even if you're exhausted, I would always. This is like an every turn. I mean, over the course of 5 combats per. You can use this once per turn, maybe not the first turn, but 5 turns. You're knocking 10 casualties
very often
off.
You're charging with Goths in the first turn, so.
Oh, okay.
You'll be
maybe
playing
6.
Them. You'll be playing it 6 or 7 turns, so no problems there.
Awesome. Yeah, this is very good ability.
So it really adds up, and then it's good that you can play every single dice facing on it. I would say that this is probably the second place I would put my rare after Resolve.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, blocking 3 casualties. That's so good. So fun. All right. Let's talk about the fatigue shenanigans. So Eye of the Hurricane, orders or orders reaction requiring an uncommon. Remove up to 4 fatigues from enemy units of your choice, and then remove the same number of fatigues from your units. So on the surface, it seems like a fair trade-off, but you're probably going to be removing fatigues from those little dinky 1 or 2 3-man units that are all beat up, and you're going to be taking fatigues off of your key combat units, which are nice and beefy and ready for the fight. So is there like an every turn strategy revolving around this, or is it more situational? How do you use it?
I always keep, if I can, I normally regret not putting a dice on this, because it ensures that you can put that extra fatigue on your unit, for example, for using immunity, or later on as well. There's another one called attack, which you can trigger. The only difference, and this is not fixed, this depends on who you're playing as well, is whether or not you play in your orders phase or in the orders reaction phase. So normally, if I'm playing as Visigoths, I normally do it in the orders reaction phase, because it means I can kind of prepare myself for getting charged, and then I can wipe out some of the fatigues, especially because you can essentially take 1 fatigue from each one of your enemy's units, and then you can just concentrate taking away 2 or 3 fatigues from a single unit of your choice from your side. So especially if you have for example, a Hearthguard unit, you can basically get rid of all your fatigues on there, and they're ready
you could
to fight. They can pretty much survive anything. One thing to note is if your opponent does have a war banner, like they normally, I believe the timing there is that they remove the fatigue at the beginning, so before the orders phase. I probably should have checked that before, but I think there's a little bit of timing issue, so you might lose being able to take one of their fatigues.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to look at it.
I don't have my rule book by.
And I know the war banner has an unusually large amount of text associated to it, rules-wise, for a seemingly simple gameplay effect. Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 different paragraphs there explaining how it works. So yeah, that very well.
One good thing is if you do play. If you do play 2 points of Hearthguard in one unit, which is normally a little bit of a risky move. If you play them with a war banner, they can basically shed a lot of fatigue in one go, and it keeps them going and charging multiple times. So it's I think it's a real force multiplier in terms of just being able to have like one Death Star unit that keeps on going.
Yeah, this one, it's good. I'm kind of torn on it because, I mean, as a Goth, you do want fatigues on your units. So, I don't know. When you're using it, if you just remove 1 or 2 fatigues, is that like valuable to you? I guess, I don't know. Since you can go up to 4, it seems like I have to use 3 or 4 to get the bang for my buck. But I don't know, when I was playing it, there's like, maybe 1 unit that I wanted to kind of clear out. But, I was okay with leaving fatigues on other units because, I'm going to throw them in with resolve anyways. And it, kind of is better in some ways. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a good way of clearing 2 fatigues from a unit. For example, you play this, you remove a fatigue in your orders phase, and then you can rest them as well.
It just kind of moves you ahead.
So there's a lot of ways of playing around without reducing the fatigue of your opponent too much, and it really depends on what your key strategy is. Sometimes you just have that one unit that needs to be able to do some extra movement to get an objective or charge someone that they're not expecting. Okay. So it's a very flexible ability as well.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of more like an advanced kind of Saga player's ability where where to take the fatigue from them, where it's not going to affect you, and where to remove it from yourself, where it's going to have maximum impact. And if you're just a beginner, you might not make wise decisions on that front. But if you know what's what, you can really maximize it. So, yeah. Yeah,
it's also great for your warlord, since you can basically just
clear him. Yeah.
Clear him completely, and then he's good to go again. So it's definitely saved my warlord a few times there.
That's right. Towards the end of the game, just screw it. Just gonna clear it from the warlord. He's fresh now, going into turn 5. That doesn't happen too often, but yeah, I like it. Anything that lets you play an aggressive warlord, I'm down. So let's
absolutely
pop down to Cunius. This is common and uncommon melee ability. Attacker only. You can reroll half your failed attack and defense dice. If your unit has at least 2 fatigues, you can reroll all your failed attack and defense dice here. So I know what you're going to say about this, and I'll let you say it, but then I have an opinion of my own, JP. Go for it.
Sure. Yeah, so this is probably one of the least played abilities on the board that I have. But it is attacker only as well. So I think that limits it a little bit for me. And using 2 dice, I normally find myself that I would prefer to put it on a different ability. I'm sure you can figure out the maths to at what point it is relevant to play this, but what I find is that I normally end up wanting to move my unit more or wanting to play one of the other abilities. So it never quite seems to work out for me. But it is a very nice kind of ability to have on there.
No.
Gee. But I'm interested to hear.
No, this is
how you think.
How can you say that? This is one of the best abilities ever created in the game of Saga. Rerolling all your attack and defense dice. The Anglo-Danes pay 2 dice for just to reroll their defense dice. The Vikings pay 2 dice just to reroll all their attack dice, and those are like cornerstone abilities of both of those boards. And the Goths pay 2 dice; they can reroll both. And you're telling me, you're not interested in it? I'm offended, sir.
No, I normally think immunity. You don't even have to bother rolling any dice. You just cancel.
Yes.
Cancel.
So there's kind of two.
For me, it's
There's two kind of approaches there. So we have immunity, which gives you auto blocks, and we're going to talk about attack, kind of which gives you auto hits. Kind of two sides of the coin. So I don't think this is a good combo with those two abilities. In so much, sometimes you might want to use them just to get the extra fatigue. So this is the combo with blood price with the 9 dice. You're going to get, maybe take half of those for defense dice and, the rest attack. And we know if you got a bunch of extra defense dice with rerolls, that's the same as kind of being invulnerable. And so this is the one where if you go all in on an attack, I think Cunius, blood price for 3 dice, you're going to have a hell of a combat. You're probably not going to take any damage. But it's weird with the Goths because you can go with immunity and attack. You could go a different approach and kind of accomplish the same thing. And you could combo them for some really stupid attack or defense power. But when I played, this was the one that I was trying to use with blood price and kind of immunity. Immunity is good. I would use immunity, but attack, I guess we'll get to attack in your opinion on that, but I didn't rate that as much as Cunius here. I don't know. I got to have at least 2 fatigues. That's why the Hurricane, I was talking, man, you got to save a couple fatigues for Cunius.
I think...
Yeah, what do you...
I think, for me, I always ended up kind of running out of the 2 dice and being able to kind of make a choice between like being able to do blood price and then another one, gratia, for example. Mm-hmm. Like there, it's pretty gets pretty tasty as well. But I think you're onto something there as well. So I think I will be. I'll be trying that one.
Mull it over, yeah.
As well. I will.
Alternative.
I will get back to you on the success rate of that. But it definitely like it's not a bad ability. It's just like you normally want to charge multiple times and with multiple units. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of running low on dice as well. So I think that's my main objection towards it. But
yes. Yeah, so this is a board where you can throw it all into one combat, one hurrah, but we know, you're playing a good player, playing objectives and stuff, you kind of have to arbitrarily draw the line somewhere. So, yeah, I hear you. I burned through my dice like crazy with the Goths. Yeah, that's why I never had any left over, because I was always playing Cunius maybe. So maybe that's the difference there. But let's talk about probably one that maybe you would leave till next turn, but not necessarily. So I would say immunity is a great defensive ability. Cunius is great at attack and defense, but when you combo with some defense dice, another like unstoppable defensive ability. And now Gratia or Gratia, I don't know. Do you have an opinion there on which one it is?
None whatsoever.
Okay. Shooting reaction or melee for a common, gain 2 defense dice. Very nice. Could be happy just with that. But if your unit has at least 1 fatigue, you gain +1 bonus to your defense dice. And if you can, I guess that does combo with blood price too. Just a few extra dice at a +1. I mean, you kind of have three different ways to completely shut down the enemy's attacks. Pretty darn good. And if you combo any of these, oh boy, yeah.
Yeah, the nice thing as well is if you combo it with, for example, an attack, you can force even a completely fresh unit, you can get the +1 bonus because you basically inflict a fatigue on yourself. So you do need to watch out. And the combo with actually maybe it's something we'll talk about later, but there are ways of getting that bonus very reliably. And for me, it's normally one that I leave on the board for if I'm expecting to get shot or charged, because it really does make even your mounted units very survivable, because it basically makes them like they've closed ranks without losing any of their attack dice. So I think with your mounted Hearthguard option, like this really, you get the best of both worlds for a common. And then even if someone decides to shoot you, just the 2 defense dice alone is already really good. And then getting that being able to save on 3s is pretty amazing against shooting.
Yeah. Obviously makes a case for the guys on foot closing ranks, but yeah, you're right. It kind of makes your
you don't even need to
shooters.
close rank. Like I think if you close ranks, you're pretty much just playing this. Especially if you're expecting to be charged multiple times, being able to close ranks, you play this, and then, or I would actually play immunity first, and then maybe next time you get charged, you would play Gratia, because then you already have a fatigue and you don't need to inflict the extra fatigue on yourself. So like having the immunity and Gratia lined up in your opponent's turn, and then if you have a number, even if you just line up blood price as well for a third, if you're expecting to be charged for a third time, you can survive a lot of melees. Just being not being too greedy in your own turn and just and blowing it all on one combo, especially if you're not sure you're gonna achieve exactly what you want to achieve, or if there's some extra units lined up behind the unit you're destroying. Having those 3 abilities up pretty much means your kind of your Death Star units of Hearthguard has a very good chance of surviving pretty much intact until the next turn.
Yeah, you're totally right there. You mentioned a couple of things: immunity, Gratia, having them both queued up, so they're both shooting reactions or melees. So big flexibility there. And
I would probably only do one. So every time, like one per melee or shooting. I wouldn't do both.
Yeah, not both, but you kind of. So what I'm thinking of, your cav units. There's a lot of boards with like one ability that'll kind of just shut down a shooting attack completely. But here you got two abilities that can do that. So they need, playing against those boards that can shut down one. Sure, you can kind of set up a play where you get two volleys into them. You kind of block, break even on the first shot, but the second one go through. But like against your Hearthguard unit, if I have to get 3 shots on them before the third shot can do any damage, like, I'm not going to try that. Like, it kind of changes like the whole game plan having those queued up. Very good abilities.
I think most shooting factions only have maybe 1 or 2 buffs that they can use to gain attack dice, so you can kind of wait for them to use that. Maybe not like Pagan Peoples or something, because you're kind of machine gunning left and right.
Yeah, but, it's the one.
I think that's more of an exception. You shouldn't be playing those 2 arrows against each other. Anyway.
That's your problem.
That's the solution to that one. Just refuse
the Lombards.
to mix ages.
Problem. Are Lombards in Viking or Crusades?
They're in the Vikings.
They're in the Vikings. Okay.
Unfortunately, the Goths aren't in the Crusades.
They didn't make it all the way far.
Unfortunately, not.
Okay. Let's go down to Weregild. This is a uncommon orders reaction till the end of the term. Each time your opponent uses one of your fatigues, they must also place a fatigue on one of their units. So the key thing here is they get to pick which unit, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the unit that you go into melee and use your fatigue. They could put the fatigue on a unit of levies in the woods on the other side of the board.
Yep.
Just to clarify, because both my opponents kind of read that the other way, where you have to put it on whatever unit is kind of using the fatigue.
No, unfortunately not. So it does give a little bit of freedom for your opponent to choose where they put it. I would only play this at the end of the turn when or end of the game when there's a limited number of units left. Because then their choice is somewhat limited.
And so the other thing too, this one is uncommon, and depending what's going on, you need an uncommon for attack. Resolve you want to rare, but it could be uncommon. Cunius for me, is my baby, is uncommon for that one. So this would kind of be the pretty way down on the stack as far as where the uncommons would go for me. So based off that, this might be one I just cover up at the start of the turn. If I only have one or two, it's not in consideration probably.
Yeah, it's one thing is when you are deciding, for example, feasting and pillaging, when you're trying to get an objective back to your turn, your board edge, and they might want to cancel your movement.
Oh, hey!
So this
I
is
like where this is going.
Especially if you don't think you're going to fight anything, because sometimes the last two or three, one or two turns, you're not really fighting. You're just trying to get out of the way, get the objective back to your board edge. That is a good one, because it essentially means that that they're very unlikely to use that particular ability. It does depend on how many units they have left as well, obviously, but it does kind of make people think a little bit.
It's interesting, yeah. No, yeah, so good feedback there for that particular
dissuading.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I didn't consider just canceling activations. Maybe doing hit and run. Goth tactics, they always reduce your move when you try to get away. You got a little something with Weregild there, but Goths are more of a hit and stay there kind of faction generally. Okay, let's go down to attack with exclamation point. Viewers will know I love any ability that has an exclamation point built right into the title of the ability. We don't get too many, but this is one of them. Attack! Uncommon, melee, inflict a fatigue on your unit to add 2 automatic hits to the hits you inflict, and you can immediately trigger another Saga ability. So this is the kind of opposite of immunity, tit for tat. You can, of course, play them both. I think sometimes you might do that early in the game, but what are your thoughts on this one? I mean, auto hits are great.
Yeah,
even one
absolutely. Stupid
levy can pop this to put 2 auto hits on the enemy warlord.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons. It also means that if you do decide to close ranks, you're not too worried. You can do some damage. Kind of those stragglers of 1 or 2 warriors. It makes people pause a little bit to charge into them and get rid of them if you have this lined up. Because then they can actually do a little bit of damage back. So I'm not. I wouldn't play this every single turn, but I do play this very often because, also, for example, it's if you want to guarantee getting rid of a unit. So if you're charging your Hearthguard and you need to get rid of that unit, this one is a good one. It's also a good way of getting that extra fatigue to be able to play Gratia or to be able to play Blood Price afterwards and bump up the number of attacks that you're going to get. So it's probably one of the it's probably one of the first abilities that you are going to play, kind of in that chain of abilities that you want to line up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the first couple turns, you're kind of engaging. You're not loaded up yet. You can use this as a way. You want that extra fatigue, and the 2 auto hits are another bonus on the way there. I guess I kind of lead toward Cunius if I want some attack. So Cunius is the uncommon and a common, so it just takes an extra dice. To me, re-rolling all the attacks, and hopefully you have some bonus attacks, I think you'll probably get more. Obviously, it's situational, but typically you're going to end up with more net auto hits, and then you don't have to eat the extra fatigue. Towards the end of the game, you're probably, I got enough fatigue, like I don't need any more fatigue. Cunius kind of sounds a little bit better to me. And I guess sometimes, like you were saying, you don't always have room on the fatigue stack to get the ability actually triggered. But yeah, I'm not going to turn down auto hits though. Going up against a warlord or anything else, just those units. Any unit can still be deadly with this ability up.
Yeah, like you were saying, even just melee or a levy with bows, it gives people a pause to charge them, because it's it's not fun getting killed by a levy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. All right, so we've discussed resolve, and let's go down to feud. Last one on the board here, common or uncommon orders. Choose an enemy unit until the end of the turn. Each time one of your units targets it with a shooting attack. Probably not too common. If you don't have levy, they get 1 bonus attack. And each time they charge, they get 2 bonus attack dice. So nothing to do with fatigue at all. And it's kind of a ability, hey, don't use all your... Don't throw it all into one. Do multiple attacks, something to kind of encourage you. Do you get any mileage out of this? How do you?
It's not the most popular one. I think it's okay if you're running Ostrogoths and you have some mounted warrior units. Then quite a few units can actually charge into a single target, because it is just one enemy unit which you have to choose. So it's not the best ability on here. It's probably along with the Were Guild, that's maybe less used, but it's nice to have there anyway.
Sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 charges. Yeah. 1 common die for that is 6 attack dice. Not too shabby.
It's also okay with your melee levy as well, because it gives them a little bit of extra.
Yeah, just saying
it's not something. I think there's definitely some. If you're charging in melee levy to do damage, you're kind of doing something wrong. So there's definitely some better places to put it before you get to that point. But it is an option.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, we've gone through the 10 board abilities, and I kind of want to talk about a dynamic that kind of ends up when you're playing the Goths. So normally in a game of Saga, when an enemy unit is exhausted, it's kind of out of the game for the most part. I mean, it could be beat up, hammered on, but you don't have to worry about it coming at you on your turn. With the Goths, it's the opposite. You have to go after. That's the unit that's going to come next turn against you if you don't take care of it. So it's a weird dynamic where you have to, so I played a few games. So I would go in, exhaust myself, and completely smash the enemy. And now, they have to kill that unit, or else I'm going to send it in again on my own turn, with Cunius and Blood Price, and it's going to be a slaughter. So I don't know. Do you have any comments on that? Is that how you? It's kind of a weird flip on that.
Yeah, it is, because essentially you're incentivized to, for example, use the attack and immunity, or for example, if you actually want to end up with 3 fatigues during the melee.
Yes.
Like you don't want to arrive with 3 fatigues.
So the sweet spot, you go in with 2.
Yeah, you go in with 2. Obviously, you have resolve up, so they can't use your fatigue against you. You want to play either an attack or immunity, bump it up to 3, because then once you finish the melee, that extra fatigue that you get from after melee doesn't.
It's getting sloughed off anyways. So
So that's kind of the optimal one. You don't want to be getting fatigues after melee. That means you've kind of mismanaged your fatigue. And then if everything goes well, you can take off a few fatigues using Eye of the Hurricane if you then want to play immunity as a defensive ability, for example. Or if you're fatigued and if you're on foot, you're just gonna close ranks, play Gratia or play Blood Price and get a lot of defense dice. So it gives you a lot of options. I've noticed that not getting too greedy on the attack is kind of key. Like you want to have something, either 2 or 3 dice on either Blood Price, immunity, or Gratia in your opponent's turn, because then you can just keep going, and it makes them surprisingly survivable.
Yeah, these guys, so good. Like you just gotta, like I was saying, if you're playing against the Goths, they're exhausted. It's like you gotta go against them because that's the unit that's going to be coming at you. And then even when you take down those units to little tiny sizes, you still have attack to worry about. That one guy coming in doing 2 auto hits, and then he might even survive with immunity. Just to add insult to injury there.
Yeah, one thing is if you are exhausted, you can't play immunity, so you do lose your
attack.
Your key one there. So I think that's the way that you get the Goths, essentially, that you start stripping away dice. It does make it a little bit painful if they have attack up, but I think that's if you're down to 5 dice, you're already losing a lot of the kind of the power that you have. So I think if people if people are struggling with Goths, just focus on one unit. It's going to hurt, but just start chipping away at the number of dice that they have, and then they're either going to have to choose to move or use some of these abilities, not both. So especially in objective games, that's kind of where you have to make some very hard decisions.
For your unit sizes, what do you just standard size? Yeah. How do you like to run?
Depends. That's a good thing with this board. It really makes it very, very flexible. Like the small unit sizes are actually less of an issue because you are so survivable. Because if you do take smaller unit sizes, you can either go full kind of suicidal mission with Blood Price and get lots of extra attacks, or if you decide to use your dice and go more towards a defensive stance and use Blood Price with defensive dice, or use immunity or Gratia. It makes it very hard to say. It depends on your playstyle. It depends what you want to achieve in a turn. You can really just switch from one to the other kind of on the fly, because you don't have to. You don't have defensive abilities and offensive abilities. Like this board has both in this kind of, especially with Blood Price, you can kind of
in the ability itself. You get a bucket of dice, attack, or you don't have to decide when you put the die down. You kind of let it ride out and see at the time where you want to go with them. So. All around, just a very flexible board. You can go in, you can dig them out, because you can as part of your plan, multiple activation something. Normally that's a detriment and works against you, but with the Goth, you're just kind of souping up that attack. You got so you can kind of surprise your enemy with some really strong long distance attacks, whether you're on foot or whether you're on horse. And I think we mentioned if you're on a horse, you can surprise some folks just plowing into those woods and rocky ground,
so
right?
The first turn charge with mounted warriors into uneven terrain to kill some levy bows is a totally viable option with this board. Mm-hmm. So even if you have to, you will have to double move, but that's not an issue. So you'll arrive with a few fatigues on you, but you can get some. You can kind of make up for it with having just a bucket load of this attack dice with blood price. So kind of the standard tactic of people putting either wood or rocky terrain in the middle of their deployment zone and putting a unit of levy in there. It becomes less attractive.
Yeah, you can easily root them out.
And it does spook them if they see that, because it's not something you like a sane person would do.
No, yeah. Just between that, just the mechanics around the fatigue and how they work, it just kind of, it's just different than other Saga, like all other Saga warbands in some respects due to that, which makes it very fun to play as the player. Do your opponents, do they enjoy playing against the Goths? Would you say?
I think so. Yeah, I think the Visigoths are maybe a little bit more frustrating because there you do have a lot better options in terms of that. Where when things aren't going your way, you can just close ranks and basically become immune. I think the people like the Ostrogoths because you're just kind of insanely attacking all the time, and a lot of death ensues, and that's always kind of guarantees a fun game. So I can imagine they are a little bit frustrating. Probably the first time you play against them, it becomes a little bit of a like you have to adjust to the weird mechanics. But I'm pretty sure as these things go, the more people play against them, the more you kind of understand what's going on, and you can kind of deal with them a little bit better.
Yes, with their uniqueness. They're different enough from other war bands that you kind of need a couple cracks at them before you kind of really understand the flow and what's coming, what they can do, what the consequences of certain actions are. Definitely one you want to get some games in against. Are you using Grippin Beast, Dark Age Warriors for these bad boys?
How did you guess? Yeah, so I've actually got multiple. So I have kind of my Visigoths, which I use the Gripping Beast Dark Age Warriors for, mixed with some of the Roman Hearthguard bodies with mail.
Yes, the late Roman plastic infantry. Yeah. Every set has one. Every sprue has like one chainmail guy, and you're like, what are you gonna do with that? I might steal that actually.
It's also efficient for Saxons and Franks and stuff like that. So you can get away with a lot. But I think we might be discussing this in an upcoming activation phase podcast episode.
Okay, cool.
But,
I think they.
So those ones are just getting a box of those and sourcing some guys with chainmail is absolutely legitimate way of starting a new warband. I also have kind of the mounted options. Those are from Footsore. Okay. So those are metal models. So I have the Ostrogoth version for that. So that's probably several kilos of metal horses. So that's kind of a bit of an issue to transport around. And then also, if you're into the Lombards, Aventine Miniatures has specific Lombard miniatures. So they have a very very specific style where they kind of have like a lamellar style helmets and armor.
Okay.
So, check those out as well if you want to if you want to go have a look at those. So there's a lot of options. The Gripping Beast metal ones are metal models are also quite nice.
Yeah, and they got the cav. The two different cav sets, the cataphract nobles and the kind of just regular guys, and there's extra heads in there, so you can sprinkle those onto your foot guys, be they Dark Age warriors, late Roman chainmail guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you could definitely. I think a lot of people could make this warband from the scraps, the various Saga scraps they have laying around from different warbands, and once you got these guys built, you probably, probably Saxons, Franks. I don't know, are they that?
Yeah, they
different
use the same dice as well.
Yeah.
So, and they have, if you're just on foot, they have similar weapon options. So, I think it's definitely an efficient way of kind of branching out and not painting 3 separate warbands if you want to mix it up. I know you're a fan of that particular play style as well.
Definitely. That's how I like to roll. So, I'm probably going to end up doing that because Franks, Saxons, Goths with, just one warband. Can't complain there.
Yeah, and then you're pretty much halfway there to a full levy Anglo-Saxon warband as well.
Yeah, I had one. I got rid of it, but yeah, that would be well on my way back. And okay. Well, sounds like Goths are fun to play against. They are give you some new mechanics for you and your opponent to kind of think about, which is always fun in the game of Saga. I feel like they pretty well nailed it. I mean, sometimes Studio Tomahawk, you want to do a certain mechanic or something with a board and it ends up not really working or being enjoyable, but the way they built it around fatigue, I think it works really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really mixes up the playstyle as well. It kind of gives you a completely different look at fatigue. It takes a few times to get the hang of it, but I do think they are a very powerful faction. So I would rate them as kind of being quite kind of a top tier faction.
Yeah, cool.
Especially, definitely within Age of Invasions. I think if you're looking at Age of Vikings as well, they can they're limited a little bit because they have to take Mounted Warlord and Hearthguard and Warriors. So, for example, if you're playing against Pagan Rust or something, it becomes a little bit more, a little bit tough. But I think they can hold their own in pretty much against any other board.
Yeah, I agree. Like I was saying, Age of Melee, they were going to be my pick. For the reasons you stated. So, all right. Well, that's about it for now. I want to thank the patrons out there for bringing this extra episode to light. Terry, Patrick, Sean, Mitchell, Kevin. You guys are rock stars, but we've got plenty of others, as you can see below. And if you play the Goths, play against the Goths, and we kind of missed some aspect or nuance of the board, let us know. Post below. And if you got any pretty pictures of your Goths, post a link to those as well. I'll be looking for some inspiration here soon enough. And is there a good place for people to find pictures of your stuff, JP? I know you posted to Saga Thursday Discord. Yeah, I think you have an Instagram, don't you? Do you post them on there? Are they on there?
I'm not sure. I've painted them.
It's a while ago.
I painted my Ostrogoths like 4 years ago, and the Visigoths recently, so this year. So they're kind of scattered all over the place. I do have a video on the Activation Phase YouTube channel, but if you probably have to go back 2 or 3 years to find that one. And it's going to be one of the first videos I made, so probably don't go dig that one up.
Well, I don't know. They're pretty, as I recall, they're pretty models there. So you always do a good job painting your stuff, and you're a productive, constant painter. Where do you find your paint motivation from, JP? Just give us a little secret, your secret sauce.
I'm not sure. I get kind of bursts of high productivity, and I basically have about 3 colors which I can do really well. for the
Okay.
Dark Age type tones. So the secret is I normally split a warband into about 3 or 4 different color tunics, and just batch paint.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look.
Kind of like
yeah.
a light gray tunic, a green tunic, a cream tunic, and like a different, and like a brownish red tunic. So if you look closely, you'll probably see that pattern for pretty much every one of my my warbands.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Yeah. Sounds better than, I don't know. I'm always trying to reinvent the wheel every single time I do something. So as far as efficiency and output goes, it's not too good, but yeah, you're getting out lots of warbands. And when you're in the game of Saga, you just want a lot of warbands, for different matchups and stuff. So, yeah, I applaud you for your hobby output. You've won the painting contest on at least 2 times, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, once for the Arab warlord, and
maybe
my
a
Lombard
warlord specialist, painting specialist.
Yep, absolutely.
When it comes to painting contests. And it's awesome to chat with you again. You and Peeker are keep on doing what you're doing. I love listening to them whenever they come out. And I like podcasts. Even though I do videos, I like to listen to podcasts, preferably if I can. So I don't know if that makes me a weirdo or what, but you guys are doing good stuff, and I hope you keep it going. Can't wait to listen to all the Hannibal stuff, and hopefully by the time you're done, Alexander will be out already, so we can just keep that train rolling.
Just a seamless steamroller of faction reviews.
Are you for Alexander? Based off the rumors, maybe you knew more than some. Are you excited about anything in particular coming out for Alexander?
I'm unfortunately I'm not privy to any special information. So if anyone in Studio Tomahawk wants to change that,
okay, here we go. This is the chance.
Age of Alexander, not so much. I'm actually looking forward to the 100 Years War.
That's right. You had that interview on your channel.
What
was her name?
I spoke to one of the creators a few months back, and she dropped that was in the works as well. So I'm looking forward to that one, and then Age of Caesars. I'm looking forward to doing some Germanics.
Awesome.
That should be fun.
Good deal. Yeah, if anybody is a real big Saga fan, they have to go back and check out that interview with that gal. It was really cool kind of just hearing kind of behind the scenes stuff about how they do it and kind of how the sausage is made behind the curtain. And I thought that was really interesting. And, 100 Years War is coming. They do spill the beans behind at least 2 of the factions were announced in there.
Yeah, I think those are probably the ones that you can't really make the 100 Years War without. But
I don't want to spoil it here, JP. They're gonna have to go to the video to figure out
all right.
2 of the faction reveals for that one. But that'll be interesting as far as balancing the shooty army versus the non so shooty army. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it, like I said. But anyways, that's it for now, buddy. We are always happy to have you on. You're a good guy in the community, very prolific poster, and all the power to you. Hopefully we can meet up in person someday.
Absolutely.
In Europe or the Americas. Have you ever looked at a Adepticon? Is that ever on the menu possible for you?
I have. And unfortunately, I didn't take advantage of going there when I was actually living in the US. So now that step is just a little bit higher to convince my wife that I need to leave for intercontinental travel for a week or so. Yeah. So hopefully one day, but no plans of yet, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'd love to have you. Otherwise, we'll try to get over there and Looking forward to that eventual meeting. And thanks everybody for watching this time. Once again, comment below if you have any questions about what we said, if there's some incorrect rules, knowledge, let us know. And we'll check you on the next one. All right. Check you later. Bye-bye. Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon, or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.